Good evening, campers, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. I'm Commander Exorcist. Ground combat zones were introduced with the 2021 Elite Dangerous Odyssey DLC, and we all know how that went. Odyssey was released in a very unfortunate state and had some serious performance issues and was just extremely undercooked. And so a lot of the on-foot activities like settlement raiding and ground combat zones, it was lost in the noise that came with that release. However, it's a very different year, and Odyssey has received quite a few hefty updates since then, and the game is in a much better position, including player count and performance. And so what I thought I'd do is I'd take an opportunity to go through the ground combat zone experience. So this tutorial is going to cover as much as I can about the actual ground combat zone experience. This is not going to go over weapons. We're not going to talk about things that are like more related to settlement raiding. This is about getting to and participating in ground combat in a way that can help you enjoy the activity and find ways to maximize your profits. And so let's talk a little bit about the basics. Ground combat zones in Elite Dangerous are on-foot, ongoing conflict zones between two powers that are vying for control of individual settlements. The activities at each of these settlements award points to that individual faction that contribute to their overall control of that star system. Now, as a player, we may not often know why this conflict started. We just know that we want to fight. And so we can choose which side we want as a player to participate in these conflicts. When you enter into a conflict zone and you actively engage the enemy, you are assigned 1,000 points for your team. These points are reduced by eliminating enemy troops and capturing specific waypoints across the map. Holding these waypoints and eliminating troops reduces the enemy's control of the installation by way of their points, and when they have reached 0, you'll be given an opportunity to remove the remaining forces from the installation. Once you've done that, you are declared the victor. Now, members of the winning team are awarded a bounty bonus, and it is proportionate to the difficulty of the conflict zone itself. You get to keep all of the bounties for the individuals that you killed during the conflict, but then you get a bonus at the very end. So depending on what level of difficulty you pick for your conflict zone, it can be a very lucrative and enjoyable activity. Now, let's talk about how to actually find combat zones in the game. There are two primary ways. The first way is to use the galaxy map. You can go in, select Pilots, Federation filter, go down and choose the state mode. And what you want to do is unfilter everything and change it to Civil War. Civil War state systems are the primary location for these ground-based offensives. However, just be aware that, like other things in Elite, even though it's in a state of civil war, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has ground-based locations. Some of these systems have no landing ability at all, so you can see a civil war state for a system simply because the factions are in a state of civil war, but there may be no planets that are landable. If there are landable planets in the system map, you'll see the little yellow icon with swords, and that indicates that there is a conflict zone at that particular location. And then the next method for finding these locations, and my personal favorite, is using the Inara tool. So if you go to the Inara website and go to the data tab and do a search for the nearest location, you can change the filter to the miscellaneous tab, and that will give you an immediate notification of available combat zones, including the distance and the number of conflict zones in that system. So whereas on the system map, you can look and filter by civil war, and it can be a little bit of a crapshoot trying to find a system that actually has landable planets where you can fight. With Inara, you can see right here on the screen that each of these systems has a certain number of conflict zones and how close they are to you. It is the best way to find the combat you're looking for. So once you've found a system and you're ready to jump into the action, there are two different ways that you can get involved in the ground combat. The first I'm going to discuss is what I consider to be Frontier's original design. This is the method and the function that Frontier introduced with Odyssey to easily get players involved in these ground combat zones, and that is Frontline Solutions. Frontline Solutions is a service that employs mercenary soldiers from various starports to go out and engage in these conflicts in support of different factions. Now, getting started with Frontline Solutions is very easy. You simply walk up to the counter, say hello to the guard, and they will provide you with a list of active conflict zones in the system. It comes up on the system map, like I mentioned before, and you can pull up and take a look at each individual conflict zone and its intensity and its rewards, and decide which faction you want to fight for. You're literally ordering over the counter combat. So once you've ordered it, all you do is head down the hallway nearest Frontline Solutions, just like you would with the Apex Taxi, and you're going to hop inside the elevator. We're going to ride that down to a hangar where a vulture will be waiting on you. Frontline Solutions branded vulture is waiting to take you to the conflict zone. This is a very easy way for players who are interested in testing out this combat system to get involved. There's really not much you have to do. You pick a location, click OK, and you are ready to go fight in your first ground combat. Even after doing these for many years at this point, I enjoy the Frontline Solutions trip. I think it's kind of cool. It's very immersive as far as the sense of actually being a mercenary, paying or being paid to engage in these kind of operations. Now, the second way to get to a conflict zone is on your own. Elite Dangerous is a persistent, open world, massive multiplayer space simulator. So everything in the game is always there. So these surface locations are active even if you're not flying around them. So when you visit a starport, that location is still out there. It's still something that you can hop in your ship and fly to, which is one of the great things about Elite. It's the openness and just the freedom that we have as pilots. So one option that you have, and my personal opinion, this is one of the most lucrative ways to do combat, is to simply fly your ship to the conflict zone. Now, the key to this is to fly your ship and land it just outside of the conflict zone. Don't get too close for the risk of getting hit by any of the lasers or missiles that are being launched. And then you want to disembark in an SRV. It's a very important point. You need an SRV for this method. So you will disembark in your SRV, and then you're going to drive over to hide behind one of the buildings or one of the cannons. Personally, I prefer to hide behind one of the settlement cannons because it just seems to be a little safer to prevent your SRV from getting smacked by anything. And the soldiers that are involved in the ground combat zone itself don't come out this far. So it's not like they're going to be running out and trying to shoot my SRV if I keep it out here by the cannon. So this is just kind of my method. So take your SRV, park it up against one of the cannons, and this is going to be our spawn point. So once you're here, then you just simply disembark from your SRV, walk into the conflict zone, fire your weapon, and get to work. Now, you're relatively safe in a conflict zone like this as long as you don't shoot anybody. You'll notice that I walked up and I fired on a random soldier. I don't know what side he was on. All I know is that his team is now the enemy. Once you shoot and damage any of the soldiers, your HUD will update and you are officially a member of Frontline Solutions. You have become a combat mercenary at this location. And the cool part about that is, as a Frontline Solutions soldier, you have the same rights and abilities you would have if you had picked a conflict zone from a station. So if you, in the unfortunate time that you get killed by the enemy team, you don't have to worry about losing your ship or your equipment or respawning in orbit or anything like that. You will respawn inside of a Frontline Solutions shuttle, and you will be dropped back into the conflict zone just as if you had signed up for the conflict at a major starport. And so I had mentioned earlier that flying your ship out to conflict zones on your own is one of the more lucrative ways to do this, and I want to show you why. So once you're done with a conflict zone and you're victorious, just stroll back out to your waiting SRV. You want to jump inside of it, and we're going to do the tried and true method of Elite Dangerous by relogging. That's right. So we're going to log back into the game, and you will spawn inside of your SRV, and the conflict zone is reset. Not only is it reset, but you maintain all of the earnings and the bonds from your previous round. So you'll be able to just hop back into the conflict zone, fight again, and continue earning money. Once you're done with the conflict zone and you're ready to cash in, just fly to the nearest Frontline Solutions in the system and cash in your bonds. It's that easy. This method is really good for making money fast because you don't have to worry about a vulture showing up, taking you back to the starport, signing up for another mission, and then having to wait on the transit time. You're already here, you just log out, log back in, and you're good to go. And so once you've reached the end of a conflict zone, the status indicator will change and you'll see individual soldiers listed. Once you take out those remaining soldiers, you will receive a battle outcome report, whether you win or lose. And in this case, we won the conflict, so we got a 300,000 credit bonus. You'll be able to pull up indicator to show your changed status with the faction and see your combat bonds. In this case, for 14 minutes of work, we made 15 million credits for the Cult of Something. Don't even know who they are, but thank you for your service. And so once you've engaged with the combat, the rules are simple. Take out the enemy team when any means necessary. Utilize the environment around you and your weapons to destroy as many enemy troops as possible. Whittle down their defenses and claim victory for your side. Now, along with this, there are a couple of different mechanics that you'll be dealing with throughout the conflict. You'll need ammo cans. Those are scattered throughout the settlements. Also, you'll be dealing with power management. Your suit still requires power. Occasionally, it'll dip down, and you'll need to come over and recharge using the energy transfer tool. There are recharging stations located throughout each of these conflict zones for your convenience. But there are medical kits as well for when you get injured. In addition to the ones that you carry on your commander, there should be a couple of boxes around. They do not show up on the mini-map, so the HUD up in the top left does not show the location of medical kits, but it will show you the location of the nearest ammo can and the waypoints. So the checkpoints that you'll need to capture and hold for the most amount of points will be shown, but that's about it. And my friends, that's going to be it for this tutorial on the basics of getting started with ground combat zones in Elite Dangerous. There's a lot of mechanics, a lot of things that can be said about these locations, but this is really just intended to get you out there and get you involved in these conflict zones. So get out there, search Inara, search the galaxy map, find a system that is in a state of civil war, pick up a gun, and give it a try. These are a lot of fun, and if you can get yourself a pretty decent weapon and engage with the high conflict zones, the high intensity ones, they can be very, very lucrative. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with me for this tutorial. I'm Commander Exorcist. Take care, fly safe, and I will see you all down there in the conflict zone.